Ladies, gentlemen, and dragons of all ages, we've been playing the hell out of Dragon Age the Veilguard here on this channel thanks to early access given to us by EA and BioWare. And with the review embargo ending today, there is one question that I know all of you want answered pretty much instantly. How is the game? Today I'll be trying to answer that relatively concisely, while also not spoiling anything important to the story or the companions as well, but obviously I'll be using general footage from the game and combat and such, so be aware of that, though I'll refrain from using anything past the first few hours. First things first, this game is very solid, especially given how long it's been since we had a Dragon Age game release. There was a lot of sort of hmming and hawing about this, not sure about the visual style of it either, but having now sunk a good chunk of hours into it on multiple different characters to really experience what the different classes feel like, it's just really well put together. The main two focuses that the game clearly has are the story and the combat. The story is done in an excellent way, classic BioWare really, lots of really well done dialogue, a lot of choices inside of it too, but unlike many game with dialogue choices, these will actually have a larger impact in the Veilguard than you may be used to, some of them having genuine effects on different characters for essentially the rest of your time with the game. It connects deeply to the story of the previous Dragon Age game as well, but it also doesn't punish you if you didn't play it either. It doesn't refrain from explaining things, it just sort of feels like you've been invited by a friend to meet their other friends, and they're all just sort of talking about things that happened to them in the past at first, but as you start to get to know each other, you settle in and fit in just fine. The companions are deep, they feel like actual participants in the events and conversations as well, and something that I really appreciate is that not every conversation is life or death. It's not all about the mission you're about to go on where everyone might die. It's not all about them revealing their deep, dark past. Sometimes you just walk in on two of your companions talking to each other about cheese, and end up in a three-person talk about the various styles of food and cooking in the world around you, which is just so interesting. And this will just be a totally optional conversation as well, because they put things like this in for the people who want to totally immerse themselves in this world and in their character and in the lives of their companions, but they don't want to force it on anyone who's just here for the epic RPG adventure side of it with cool combat too. And that's the other main thing that this game focuses on incredibly hard, the combat. The game has extremely fluid and visually impressive combat that has a ton of varied ways to make you feel like a badass while you're playing. No matter which of the three classes that you choose, you then have three further specialization options you can dig into. You got a ton of just raw active abilities you can use from the skill tree, but then past that, each class has a really deep and expansive set of even passive skills. Past this, it lets you mix and match different bits like these together to really find something that scratches that itch in your brain. For me personally, I love afflictions. I love the idea of damage over time effects that you can apply to an enemy, and then just watch the big numbers popping up beside them above their head each second as they take damage, while you just sort of watch them die after applying them. Yes, maybe it's a little bit sadistic of me, perhaps, but it's something that I enjoy doing, and it's something that every single class is capable of doing in its own unique way, its own flavor of afflictions, and they're all capable of pushing it to a frankly ridiculous degree too. Maybe instead of that, you are someone who likes big, meaty numbers, critical hits. Well, there are tons of synergies you can build around that for each class as well. If you like parrying and feeling like someone who has perfect timing, then each class has options for that, and if you would rather just become an unstoppable, immovable object, an unkillable tank, you can build towards being that too. Again, with each class offering their own sort of spin on it, their own flavor of it. And while I have a heavy appreciation for the depth of the combat, as someone who just really enjoys and loves build creation in various RPG style games, the thing that really gets me involved the most is how well done the class fantasy feels. Rogue has options that make you feel like an unmatched swordsman. It has options that let you feel like you're just sort of like Batman, just out preparing every enemy you fight with perfectly chosen tools set up ahead of time and preparation through traps. Or you can go like full Legolas archer mode and feel like a badass from a distance. Warrior has full tank mode where your defense literally turns into offense, where you summon like spectral siege weapons, or you throw your shield which then funnels from your defense into its damage, and it funnels into each other. It has a full-on necromancer type specialization where you apply a lifesteal affliction from enemies, which is just absolutely massive, letting you do damage and regenerate in a way that most playstyles won't, because this game does have limited healing unless you have spells like that. And it just has your gigantic weapon specialization as well for Warrior 2. Mage has a sort of necromancy type specialization, which is pretty neat to see for a mage, but then it also has like full-on black holes and gravity and space magic as its representation of a cold damage specialization, which is just cool as all hell. It's one of the coolest things that you can have a mage do, and the animations for it are awesome too. Then it also has one of the best done battle mage type concepts that I have ever seen with the Spellblade specialization. This takes advantage of a unique weapon type with a dagger and magical orbs, where you mark them with the orb from ranged, and then pop those marks with the dagger, and this does just a massive amount of damage, and they tie all this in to mix with electrical attacks and fire attacks, and applying both shock and the burning affliction for damage over time. And I could go on for ages about the cool ways that these things interact with each other and the ways that the classes have them unique from the other ones. But the raw skill tree options themselves just allow for such amazing class fantasy option, such deep customization and intermingling of these things between each other to make something truly unique, truly yours, as well as the combination of this with also the gear and upgrading and progression system is quite interesting too. It all functions mostly through the different faction vendors. Managing your reputation and choosing where you want to sell your valuables to decide which shop will then be able to sell you better items based on what you want to own, the things in their inventory that you like the look of. And then the actual combat scenarios that the game puts you in as well are pretty cool too. They're very good ways to sort of test what you've put together, along with having a handful of different difficulty options for the game settings in general, meant to appeal to anyone from the most hardcore players really wanting to put themselves to the test, all the way to people who are just here purely for story and the spectacle of the combat, and then even difficulty customization past this, so you can do things like choosing to have heavy aim assist, but everything else is still difficult because you just struggle at aiming but want the game to be hard otherwise. Maybe you just suck at using a controller for aiming but like the feeling of the game with a controller, so you want to have that setting up high and everything else still be difficult as well around it. The world itself then is incredibly expansive and immersive as well. Each sort of region in the game has a very specific and defined aesthetic that makes it unique from everywhere else. And speaking of which, well, a lot of people were a bit put off by the graphics on the initial reveal of the game. Once you're actually experiencing them in the setting that they're meant to be, in the cutscenes, exploring the world, seeing everything put together, seeing the character models actually in the world with the lighting and such around it, it's just so easy to get immersed into. They haven't gone for a full realism style, but that doesn't mean the graphics are bad, it just means that they're stylized, which is always a great thing to see in an RPG, and it sort of helps the game stay sort of timeless in a way. The games that try to be way too realistic with their graphics and look too much like human life are very clearly going to be outdone by things done in a few years. But if you have a very clear style that other games aren't going to try and replicate and improve upon, then that isn't necessarily something that can just be straight up upgraded over time. On top of all of this, one thing that I really want to make note of is that while this is a relatively open world style game, it is a bit more linear than many RPGs are these days, and it accomplishes an open world type of style with very directed pathways and such, to the point where it feels like while you can't explore literally entire cities, there is always another side pathway that you can head down off of the main path, and every time you do so, you will find a chest or a valuable or a memento or maybe even like a little puzzle or some other item to reward you for taking the time to check, sometimes even as big as skill points or bonus maximum health for the entire rest of the game. All in all, the game just feels good to play. The story is fun, the companions are relatable and enjoyable to have around, they each sort of are their own personality type, they don't necessarily have the same thing, just copy and pasted. The story is massive around them as well, and it makes you feel like you are one of the only people capable of saving essentially the whole world, but also finds time for smaller moments of just character bonding and fun without having it feel out of place or forced given, you know, the stakes of everything around it. The combat has a ton of variety to it and a lot of customization and options to really make your own unique sort of playstyle too that fits how you want to play, and it all just sort of fits together in this nice, lovely package. This game isn't going to completely blow your mind, it's not going to be the best game you've ever played, but it's very well put together. It is fun, it's immersive, with a good story to pair that with too, and I think most of the people who are fans of the games we normally cover on this channel would enjoy their time playing this game too. That's about it for today then, everyone. Just a review and sort of just how the game is so far and how it feels in as concise a way as I could present it, while still pointing out all the things that I wanted to speak on at the moment. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below, and we'll answer them if we're allowed to. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.